Imagine you're standing in a public square and you watch a man get bitten by a dog.
Right.
You see the teeth sink in, you hear the shout, you see the blood. Your brain registers this as an objective fact. I mean, it happened. But what if the sheer undeniable reality of that event could be completely erased?
Just wiped out.
Exactly. Not by new evidence, not by a different camera angle, but simply by finding out who owns the dog. What if reality itself isn't a fixed point, but
like a completely malleable substance.
Yeah, a substance that bends to the gravity of whoever holds the most power in the room.
It forces a rather terrifying question about human perception.
Right.
Because we assume our eyes feed us the truth.
Yeah.
But if the social hierarchy is rigid enough, the hierarchy actually overrides the optic nerve.
It overrides reality. And that phenomenon, that is our entire mission today. So welcome to the deep dive. You are here because you want to get past those, surface level summaries. You want the philosophical mechanics behind the ideas, the real aha moments that are hiding in the source material. Today, we are opening up a really fascinating stack of sources. We've got a series of audio adaptations, dramatic radio plays, and some really intensive biographical analyses focused on one specific piece of literature.
Anton Chekhov's 1884 classic, The Chameleon.
Yes. Known in the Arabic adaptations we looked at as al-Hirba.
Right. And we are dissecting an incredibly specific moment in 19th century Russia here. But the pathology Chekhov identifies is, well, it's entirely boundless.
I want to set the parameters right away for you listening, because we aren't going to just sit here and give you a book report on a Russian short story about a policeman and a puppy. That's not what we do.
No, definitely not.
We are looking at a forensic analysis of a sick society. We're investigating the anatomy of truth, the mechanics of power, and how identity just dissolves when the system demands it.
The diagnosis.
Exactly. And to read this diagnosis correctly, you have to understand the mind of the doctor who wrote it.
Literally a doctor.
Literally. Anton Chekhov was born in 1860, died in 1904, but the pivotal year for our sources, the year we really care about today, is 1884.
Right.
That is the year he graduated from Moscow University as a medical doctor, and it's the exact same year he began publishing stories like this one.
And that medical background, it wasn't secondary to his writing. It was the fundamental framework through which he processed the world.
Mm-hmm.
Chekhov looked at Russian society, which, at the time was operating under this highly rigid, completely unyielding class structure, the table of ranks.
Right, the table of ranks.
Right. And he didn't just see inequality. He saw symptoms. He approached his characters the exact same way a physician approaches a patient presenting with an advanced disease.
And I really want to challenge the usual perception of Chekhov here, because when people talk about his early short stories, the focus is almost always on the comedy.
Oh, for sure. The farce.
Yeah, the satire, the absurdity of the situations, the physical humor. I mean, people read these stories to laugh. But the biographical analyses in our sources suggest something much darker.
Mm-hmm.
The humor is just the delivery mechanism for a rather bleak sociological autopsy.
It's a defense mechanism, really. The laughter, I mean. He was using satire to isolate a terminal social illness. Because in an authoritarian structure, direct criticism of the state gets you exiled.
Yeah.
Or much worse.
Yeah, you can't just write an essay saying the government is corrupt.
Exactly. But if you frame the decay of objective truth as like a comedic misunderstanding in a provincial market, well, you bypass the censors while diagnosing the exact moment that society loses its grip on reality.
That is so true. So let's look at the environment where this illness actually incubates, because our sources place a massive emphasis on the opening setting of the story. They treat it as the physical manifestation of the disease.
The town square.
Right. We open on a town square. Police Inspector Ochumelov is walking through this market in a brand new overcoat. And behind him is his deputy, this red-haired policeman named Yeldarin. And Yeldarin is carrying a sieve, like a strainer.
Right.
And it is filled to the absolute brim with confiscated gooseberries.
I love that detail. You have to keep that image of the sieve in mind, because it functions in such stark contrast to the rest of the environment. The audio adaptations go out of their way to establish a profound, unnatural silence in this market.
It's eerie. The descriptions are deeply unsettling. There are no customers anywhere. There's no haggling. The shops and taverns have their doors wide open. And the text specifically describes them looking out at the world, quote, like hungry jaws.
Yes.
The Arabic adaptation translates this beautifully as Kalashtak al-Ja'a. It's not just an empty space, right? It's an actively predatory one.
Which is such a paradox, because a market is theoretically the center of human agency.
Right.
It's where commerce, communication, and community all intersect. By stripping the market of people and replacing the inviting storefronts with the imagery of an open, starving mouth, Chekhov establishes this baseline of existential dread.
Yeah.
This society does not nurture its citizens, it consumes them.
Well, I actually read the hungry jaws metaphor slightly differently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't think it's just about the state consuming the people. I think it represents the total spiritual void of the society itself.
Okay, unpack that.
Think about walking through a massive abandoned structure today, like a dead shopping mall or an empty stadium.
Yeah.
The architecture is built for thousands of people, right? And when they aren't there, the negative space feels completely crushing.
Oh, I see what you mean. The sensory deprivation of it.
Exactly. It's a sensory deprivation tank.
Yeah.
The silence isn't peaceful. It's the silence of a population that has learned to hide.
That interpretation aligns perfectly with the presence of the gooseberries, actually.
Wow, gooseberries.
Yeah, because in a space devoid of life or any major commerce, you have the state authorities walking around with a sieve of berries they've confiscated.
Mm-hmm.
They aren't solving murders or maintaining the peace.
Mm-hmm.
They are extracting the absolute minimum amount of capital from whoever is weak enough to take it from.
Okay.
It's petty, mundane tyranny.
It's parasitic. The system is a parasite that has already drained the host, and now it's just, feeding on the scraps.
Mhm.
And when a population is trapped inside those hungry jaws, they can't afford the luxury of a traditional moral compass.
No, not at all.
They have to develop an entirely new philosophy just to survive the day.
Which is where the dramatic radio play in our source material comes in.
Yeah.
It expands on this survival philosophy brilliantly. The creators of that adaptation added a prologue. It's a philosophical dialogue between a poor young man named Dmitri and his friend.
Mm-hmm.
And Dmitri is basically articulating the psychology of the lower classes. He points out the immobility of their lives, how the rich continuously extract from the poor. But he lands on this fascinating piece of social determinism.
Yes. Dmitri realizes that the poor are the fundamental anchor for the entire social hierarchy. He asks this chilling question. Who will serve the masters but the slaves? Who will show mercy if there is no oppressor?
It's brilliant.
He's recognizing a grotesque symbiosis. The oppressors require the oppressed to validate their own existence.
It's a total inversion of the Hegelian master-slave dialectic. Dmitri is pointing out that power is entirely relative. A general is only a general because there is a peasant to kneel before him.
Right.
If the peasants vanish, the general's identity collapses.
Yeah.
The oppressed are trapped, yes, but they're also the mirror the powerful use to see their own reflection.
I do struggle with how passive that sounds, though.
How so?
Well, calling themselves deformed dolls who can't defend themselves, it feels almost like an abdication of responsibility. I mean, if you accept that you are just a structural necessity for the rich, you give up all your agency.
But look at how that lack of agency actually manifests in practice. The radio play introduces us to Amilda, or Yulia, depending on the translation, who is a vegetable seller. Her character arc directly answers your concern about passivity.
Oh, that's true.
She doesn't just lie down and accept her fate, she actively weaponizes the corruption of the system for her own survival.
Amilda is fascinating because she explicitly states that she used to be honest. She operated with integrity, and it brought her nothing but starvation.
Mm-hmm.
So she makes a calculated decision to abandon objective morality and adopt what she calls the, quote, tools of the era, lying and deceit. We hear her go to a merchant with this elaborate lie about getting a high-ranking government appointment, purely to trick him into giving her vegetables on credit. She completely scams him.
Because she understands that in a society where truth has no currency, deceit is the only functional capital. You could argue she's highly agentic. She diagnoses the rules of the environment and mutates to ensure her own survival.
I see the survival argument, I do. But isn't she just becoming another hungry jaw?
What do you mean?
Well, by choosing to lie, by scamming another working person, she's perpetuating the exact disease that ruined her honest life. She hasn't beaten the system. She has let the system colonize her mind.
That's a fair point. But whether it's colonization or adaptation, the result is the same.
No.
A society operating entirely on manufactured realities. Amilda creates a fiction to get vegetables. The state creates fictions to maintain authority.
Right.
And this perfectly sets the stage for a collision. What happens when these manufactured realities crash into an actual physical event? How does a society built on lies process an undeniable fact?
And that's exactly what happens next. The silence of that dead market square is suddenly ripped open by a scream.
Yeah.
A goldsmith named Kryukin comes tearing out of a woodyard chasing a dog, and the sources give us very specific details here. It's a white borzoi puppy with a sharp snout and a yellow spot on its back.
Very specific.
Very. And the puppy is terrified, running on 3 legs. Kryukin dives, hits the ground, and manages to catch the dog by its hind legs. The dog is howling, Kryukin is yelling, and a crowd immediately materializes out of the empty shops.
Right, because the spectacle of violence draws them out of hiding.
Exactly. Kryukin stands up, and he thrusts his bleeding right finger into the air. The text is very deliberate here. He holds the finger up to the crowd like a, quote, flag of victory.
Which is such a powerful image. Think about the semiotics of a flag. A flag claims territory. It demands allegiance. Kryukin isn't just showing people an injury. He is planting his flag in the moral high ground and demanding the crowd rally behind his version of events.
He immediately launches into his narrative. He tells Inspector Ochumelov that he is a working man, a goldsmith with a, quote, delicate job. He claims the bite was unprovoked and demands compensation, insisting he might not be able to use his finger for a week.
Right, turning it into a transaction.
Exactly. He is converting his physical pain into a financial asset.
And instantly, the epistemological foundation of the scene fractures. Because someone in the crowd yells out a completely contradictory story.
Yeah.
This voice claims Kryukin was torturing the puppy, shoving a cigar into its snout for a laugh, and the dog bit him purely in self-defense.
This is the crux of the genius here, because we, the audience, never see the bite.
We have no idea what actually happened.
Exactly. We are dropped into the aftermath, and we have zero access to the objective truth. We have Kryukin claiming victimhood, and the crowd claiming he is the aggressor.
Chekhov places us in the exact position of the Russian public. We are surrounded by conflicting narratives, each serving a personal agenda. Kryukin goes so far as to weaponize progressive legal concepts. He yells, "Everyone is equal now."
Oh, that part is so telling.
Right. He is demanding that even if a powerful person owns this dog, the law must compensate him.
But he doesn't care about equality.
No, not at all.
He's using the language of social reform as an extortion tactic. He is doing exactly what Emilda did, manipulating the system for a payout. It's a brilliant demonstration of how, when the core of a society is corrupt, even the language of justice becomes just another tool for grifting.
Yeah, and when objective reality is inaccessible and the people involved are unreliable, a society must turn to its designated authority to establish the truth. So Inspector Ochumelov steps forward to play the role of the ultimate arbiter.
Ochumelov has his brand new coat. He has the badge. He has the authority. And he initially approaches the situation with absolute severity. He looks at the dog, listens to Kryukin, and just drops the hammer. He rules that the dog is a rabid stray and orders it to be killed immediately. He promises to track down the owner and levy heavy fines. He is the picture of uncompromising, heavy-handed justice.
He establishes a firm reality. The dog is a menace, the law will be upheld.
Until a random voice in the crowd mentions that the dog might belong to General Zhigulov.
And the mere invocation of the general's name triggers a physiological response in Ochumelov.
It's hilarious and terrifying. He starts sweating profusely. The authority just drains out of him in real time. He turns to his deputy and says, "Take my coat off. It's incredibly hot. It feels like it's going to rain."
Right.
And the moment that coat comes off, his ruling completely flips. He looks at Kryukin, this huge guy, and looks at the tiny puppy and says, "How could this little dog possibly reach your finger? You must have scratched yourself on a nail and decided to blame the dog to extort the general."
He instantly adopts the crowd's counter-narrative, not because he investigated the claim, but because the power dynamic shifted. The truth is magnetically pulled toward the center of power.
And it swings right back, because someone else in the crowd says, "Actually, the general only keeps pointers. That's a mutt."
Yep.
Instantly, Ochumelov shivers. He complains of a chill breeze. He orders his deputy to put his coat back on, and with the coat back on his shoulders, his verdict flips back to the original. The dog is a worthless stray, it must be killed, and Kryukin is an innocent victim.
It is a phenomenal depiction of the mechanics of power overriding objective reality. The coat functions as an armor against the radiation of authority.
The thermodynamics of morality.
Exactly. When he feels safe, he wears the coat of the state, dispensing harsh judgments on the weak. When he realizes he might be threatening the property of a general, the heat of that potential consequence makes him strip away his authority and grovel.
You know, people always frame Ochumelov as a brainless sycophant, a completely hollow man who just bends to the wind.
Sure, that's the common read.
But I want to argue the opposite. I think Ochumelov is demonstrating supreme hypervigilant agency. He is running complex risk assessment calculations in milliseconds.
Really? You see it as calculated?
Oh, absolutely. He isn't a mindless chameleon. He is a highly skilled survivalist navigating a minefield. One wrong verdict against a general's dog, and he loses his job, his status, maybe his freedom.
That is a compelling read, for sure. But consider the cost of that hypervigilance. If your entire cognitive function is dedicated to assessing proximity to power, you no longer possess an internal center of gravity. Ochumelov may be actively calculating, yes, but he is calculating within a framework that demands the total erasure of his own principles. He doesn't seek the truth. He seeks the safest reality.
Right.
He proves that in this society, the written law is a complete fiction. The only functioning law is the hierarchy.
And that becomes undeniable when the ultimate arbiter arrives. Prochor, the general's cook, walks into the square.
The expert on the general's dogs.
Exactly. He is the definitive subject matter expert here. The crowd quiets down. Ochumelov stops his shivering and sweating long enough to ask the definitive question, is this the general's dog? And Prochor looks at the borzoi puppy and says, no, we've never had a dog like that.
The statement of absolute fact.
Ochumelov is ecstatic. His reality is validated. He puffs his chest out, secure in his coat, and declares, I told you, it's a stray. There's no need to talk about it anymore. Kill it, and that's it. The tension is completely resolved.
But Prochor isn't finished.
No, he is not. Prochor holds up his hand and delivers the final blow. Quote, it's not our dog. It belongs to the general's brother, Vladimir Ivanovich, who has just arrived for a visit.
And the introduction of the general's brother is the ultimate stress test for this entire philosophical system.
The sources detail the physical transformation that washes over Ochumelov in this moment. His face is instantly flooded with a, quote, smile of emotion. He feigns pure delight, acting as if the arrival of the brother is the greatest news of his entire life.
Right.
Vladimir Ivanovich is here. And I didn't even know. Has he come for a visit? Oh, how wonderful. And then he looks down at the dog. The exact same animal he ordered killed 5 seconds prior.
And pay close attention to what happens to the dog here. Chekhov is demonstrating how absolute power alters the fundamental ontology of the physical world.
It's wild. Ochumelov starts cooing over it. He calls it a delicate, valuable creature. He calls it a smart little dog and laughs affectionately about how it bit Kryukin. The dog's physical attributes, its size, its fur, the fact that it just bit a man, none of that has changed. But because its invisible tether to power has been revealed, the dog literally transforms in the eyes of the law from a rabid monster into an angelic creature.
Because authority possesses the power to rewrite perception, the truth of the dog is retroactively altered by the status of its owner.
And Ochumelov seals the new reality. He turns to Kryukin, the man with the bleeding finger, the supposed victim he was protecting just moments ago, and snarls, I'll get you later.
Yeah.
He wraps his coat tightly around himself and struts away through the marketplace. The hierarchy has been preserved. The truth has been successfully bent to serve power.
And we really cannot ignore the reaction of the crowd here. This mass of people, the very ones living in the hungry jaws of this oppressive system, they just watch this gross miscarriage of justice unfold. Do they recognize the absurdity? Do they rally behind Kryukin against the corrupt inspector?
No. They erupt into laughter. The crowd laughs at Kryukin.
Why do they laugh? It isn't just relief that the tension is broken. It is the darkest form of complicity.
I think it's a mix of schadenfreude and self-preservation. Kryukin tried to play the game. He tried to use the language of equality to extort money from the powerful, and he lost. The crowd laughs at the loser.
By laughing at Kryukin, the crowd is actively participating in the illusion. They are validating the very hierarchy that crushes them. They enforce the idea that Kryukin's physical pain is entirely irrelevant when weighed against the mere existence of a general's brother. It circles back to Dmitri's philosophy in the radio play.
That the oppressed must validate the oppressor for the system to function.
Yes. The crowd's laughter is the final symptom of the disease Chekhov is diagnosing. The whole society is complicit in the death of truth.
We started by looking at this through the lens of a medical diagnosis, and, well, the autopsy is incredibly bleak.
It really is.
Chekhov wasn't writing a lighthearted sketch about a bumbling cop and a dog. He mapped out the precise mechanics of a society where reality is dismantled piece by piece.
Yeah.
When the environment is predatory, when the state acts as a hungry jaw, the people inside it learn to manipulate deceit as a survival tool. The law becomes nothing more than a performance art piece, choreographed to protect the powerful. And in a world built on that foundation, survival demands that you constantly rewrite your own principles to match the prevailing wind.
It is a society that has traded its anchor to objective reality for the temporary safety of compliance. And it presents a deeply unsettling mirror for anyone analyzing it today. I mean, if we accept Chekhov's premise that our perception of truth and justice is overwhelmingly dictated by the invisible forces of power and environment,
It makes you question every firm stance you think you have.
it forces a profound inward reflection. If our understanding of reality is constantly being colored by who is speaking and who holds the leverage in the room,
Right.
how much of your own reality is just a coat you are putting on and taking off, depending on who walks through the door?
Wow. That is exactly the kind of question we want to leave you with. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us today. We hope you found the insights beneath the surface of the text. Keep questioning the narratives around you, pay close attention to who is changing their colors, and we will see you next time.